My mom slapped me so hard across the face that my ears rang, my cheek burned like fire, and for a few seconds the whole kitchen spun. I staggered back, eyes watering, tasting blood where my tooth cut the inside of my lip. She'd never hit me like that before. Dad stood right there in the doorway. He didn't move to stop her, didn't say a word to her. Instead, he looked straight at me and said, cold as ice, "His future actually matters. Yours never did." I remember the silence after that. Heavy. Final. My little brother was somewhere behind them. I could feel his eyes on me, but I didn't look. I just grabbed my keys, my folder for the doctor's appointment, and walked out the front door without saying anything back. My face was still throbbing when I started the car. Name's Haley Porter, 27, female from the suburbs of Orlando, Florida. 3 years ago, that slap changed everything, and last month my parents finally faced the consequences. Strap in, because this one's got the kind of karma that hits hard. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel grow and lets us keep bringing you these stories. And drop your own family drama in the comments. I read them all. Back then, I was still living in that house thinking things would never get worse. I'd been living in that split-level house on the edge of Orlando's suburbs for way too long. The kind of neighborhood where every lawn looks the same, palm trees line the streets, and everybody pretends they're doing better than they actually are. Hot, humid, and quiet most days, except inside our place. I was 24 back then, working double shifts just to keep my head above water. Mornings at a busy breakfast diner, slinging plates of eggs and pancakes, smiling through the rush, even when my feet ached. Evenings picking up delivery gigs, racing around in my beat-up sedan, with bags of takeout balanced on the passenger seat. Tips were okay if I hustled, but after gas and phone bills, there wasn't much left. And still, every first of the month, I handed my parents $300 for rent. Cash, because Mom liked it that way. They started charging me the day I turned 18. No discussion, just an envelope on the kitchen counter with my name on it. I paid it without complaining, at least not out loud, because the alternative was sleeping in my car, and I wasn't ready for that yet. My younger brother Tyler never paid a cent. He was 20 then, stretching a 2-year community college program into its 4th year, taking 1 or 2 classes a semester. He slept until noon, most days, rolled out of bed in basketball shorts and whatever expensive hoodie Mom had just bought him, and spent the rest of the afternoon gaming or hanging out with friends. Dad had gotten him a used but shiny pickup truck the year before, nothing crazy but way nicer than anything I'd ever driven. Payments came out of some mysterious family fund I wasn't supposed to ask about. Dinner was usually the only time we were all in the same room. Mom would cook something simple, grilled chicken, pasta, whatever was on sale, and set an extra plate for Tyler even when he showed up late. He'd eat fast, phone in one hand, barely looking up. As soon as he was done, he'd push back from the table, mumble something about needing to study, and disappear upstairs. The dishes stayed right where he left them. That was my cue. I'd clear the table, scrape leftovers, load the dishwasher, wipe down the counters. Every single night. If I tried to leave it for morning, Mom would sigh loud enough for the whole house to hear and say I was being inconsiderate. So I did it, bone-tired from work, standing at the sink while the hot water turned my hands red. I felt invisible most of the time. They only seemed to notice me when something needed doing, grabbing groceries on my way home, fixing the Wi-Fi when it acted up, covering a bill they'd forgotten. Dad would nod approvingly if I handled it quietly. "You're the reliable one," he'd say, like that was supposed to feel good. Reliable meant they didn't have to worry about me because I'd figure it out alone while they focused on Tyler. Mom kept the fridge stocked with the stuff Tyler liked, name-brand cereal, energy drinks, the good orange juice. My shelves in the pantry were the generic stuff I bought myself. She'd defend it by saying he was still growing, still in school, needed the fuel. I was already grown, already working, so I could manage. I didn't hate them for it, not exactly. I told myself it was temporary. Every extra dollar I scraped together went into a separate savings account they didn't know about. I'd been dealing with thyroid issues since my teens, regular blood work, meds, checkups that weren't cheap. The doctors kept saying nursing would be a solid career for me, stable hours once I got certified, good benefits, something that could actually cover my medical stuff long term. So I was aiming for the Certified Nursing Assistant program at the community college, then bridge into LPN training. Paid apprenticeship if I got lucky. It felt far away, but it was mine. Most nights I'd get home after 10, kick off my shoes, and collapse on the bed in the smallest bedroom upstairs. The house would be dark except for the glow under Tyler's door controller lights flashing muffled explosions from whatever game he was on. I'd lie there listening to the AC hum and wonder how much longer I could keep this up. One night after a late shift, I walked in quietly and heard my parents talking in the living room. Their voices drifted through the open layout, low and comfortable, like they were discussing the weather. I stood just outside the glow of the living room lamp, bag still slung over my shoulder, not quite ready to interrupt. The AC clicked on, masking my footsteps as I edged closer. Mom was curled up on the couch with her laptop balanced on her knees, scrolling through something. Dad sat across from her in his recliner, beer in hand, flipping channels absent-mindedly. "We'll need to cover another $800 for Tyler's registration next month," Mom said, tone light but pointed. "The deadline's coming up, and he mentioned a couple of new fees for his online classes." Dad muted the TV. "Already we just paid the last batch. Thought that education account was supposed to handle the basics." "It is. But things add up. New textbooks, software subscription for his business course. He's really applying himself this semester. You should see how motivated he is." There was pride in her voice, the kind she saved for his smallest accomplishments. I pressed my back against the wall, pulse picking up. Education account. They'd used those exact words like it was real, set aside just for him. I remembered asking about college money when I was 18, right after graduation. Mom had shut it down fast. Said the house payments were tight. Dad's shop had slow months. No way we could swing loans or tuition. Dad backed her up, told me real life didn't wait for degrees, better to start earning right away. So I did. But here it was alive and breathing for Tyler's software subscription. For extras he probably didn't even need. Dad exhaled slowly. "Fine. Transfer it over tomorrow. Just keep him on track. He's got real potential if he sticks with it." "He does," Mom agreed, clicking something on the screen. "Way more drive than most kids his age. We're lucky." I swallowed hard, the words landing like stones. Lucky. Drive. I'd been pulling doubles since 19, saving every tip for my own shot at classes, and that was coasting. The fan spun overhead, indifferent. They moved on to shop talk, Dad complaining about a customer who kept delaying payment on a transmission rebuild. Mom suggested using part of the next deposit to cover Tyler's stuff if things got tight. I backed away slowly, careful not to bump the side table, and slipped upstairs. In my room, I sat on the bed, lights off, staring at the faint strip of glow under Tyler's door across the hall. The education account wasn't a myth. It just had rules I'd never been told about. All those no's I'd accepted, all the applications I never filled out because I believed we were broke. It rearranged itself in my head, ugly and sharp. It stirred up another memory I usually buried. About 2 years earlier, I'd finally lined up an entry-level medical billing course at the Technical Center short program. Affordable, would have given me office experience and maybe insurance to help with my thyroid meds. I'd studied the brochure for weeks, even got a recommendation letter from my diner manager. The entrance exam was on a Friday morning. Thursday night, my car sat fine in the driveway. Friday, it wouldn't start, battery completely drained, cables loose like someone had tugged them. Dad came out, looked under the hood, said it needed a jump, and maybe more. By the time he got it running and I drove over, the testing window had closed. Non-refundable fee gone, spot filled. I called from the parking lot, voice cracking, and they said, "Sorry, next cycle was 6 months away." Dad never billed me for his time, acted like he'd done me a favor. Tyler had been heading out that weekend for a beach trip with friends, last-minute plans, big group. I never thought twice about it then. Too upset about the money lost, too focused on picking up extra shifts to recover. But now, with the education account laid bare, that old breakdown felt different. Suspicious. Like maybe someone had made sure I stayed stuck. I didn't have proof, just a sick twist in my gut that wouldn't settle. I lay awake most of the night, turning it over, the pieces not quite fitting but close enough to hurt. Morning came too soon. I dragged myself downstairs around 9, still in yesterday's fog, pouring coffee while the sun blasted through the windows. Tyler wandered in closer to 10, hair messed up, wearing gym shorts and a tank top. He grabbed cereal, the expensive kind Mom bought just for him, and leaned against the counter, scrolling his phone. He glanced up eventually. "Hey, you working today? Afternoon shift?" "Why, my truck's low on gas and I've got that lecture at noon. Can you drop me off at campus?" "It's on your way to the clinic, right?" "The clinic?" "My thyroid appointment, the one I'd booked months out because the endocrinologist stayed backed up. Recent labs had flagged something off, nothing urgent but enough for closer monitoring. Ultrasound, blood draw consult. I'd already arranged coverage at work." I stirred my coffee slower. "Can't today. That appointment's important, they're checking the nodules again. You can fill up or grab a ride with Ashley." He laughed, short and annoyed. "Seriously, it's 20 minutes out of your day. Just move the doctor thing. Labs aren't going anywhere. Move it. Like slots grew on trees." "No. I've waited too long already. Handle your own ride." Tyler's face tightened. He set his bowl down harder than necessary. "Whatever. You're always like this." He stormed out of the kitchen, phone already to his ear as he headed toward the living room. I heard him muttering something about me being difficult. Mom appeared in the doorway a minute later, arms crossed, expression set in that familiar, disappointed line. "Tyler says you won't help him get to class. It's one ride, Mom. He's got a truck and a license. It's not just a ride, it's supporting his education. You know how scattered he gets. One small favor, Haley, that's all." Small favor. The phrase echoed all the others I'd heard over the years. This is my health. The doctor specifically said not to delay. She stepped closer, voice rising a notch. "You're being selfish." "When did you get so stubborn about family selfish?" "For protecting my own appointment." The word stung more than it should have, piling on top of everything from last night. I opened my mouth to answer, but she cut me off with a sharp gesture. My mother stormed into the kitchen, her hand already raised. Her palm connected with my cheek in a sharp crack that echoed off the tile backsplash. The impact snapped my head sideways, a hot flash exploding across my skin as my vision blurred for several long seconds. I stumbled half a step, hand flying up, instinctively tasting copper, where my lips split against my teeth. The sting spread fast, deep, and throbbing, like I'd pressed my face to a stove burner. The kitchen went dead quiet. No radio hum from Mom's phone, no clink of dishes, just the low buzz of the fridge and my own pulse hammering in my ears. I blinked hard, trying to clear the haze, and looked up. Mom stood frozen, hand still, half-raised, eyes wide, like she couldn't believe what she'd just done. But the shock passed quick. Her mouth tightened into that thin line I knew too well. Behind her, Tyler leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, a small smirk tugging at one corner of his mouth. He didn't say anything, just watched, like this was entertainment he'd been waiting for. Then the front door opened and shut with a familiar thud. Dad's footsteps crossed the hall faster than usual, keys jangling as he dropped them on the entry table. He appeared in the archway seconds later, work shirt smudged with grease, face already set in that no-nonsense expression he wore when Mom texted him about issues. "What's going on?" he asked, eyes flicking from Mom to me and back. Mom found her voice first. "Haley's refusing to help Tyler get to class. Again." I asked her nicely, "I have my appointment." I cut in, voice steadier than I felt. My cheek burned hotter under everyone's stare. "It's not negotiable." Dad stepped closer, filling the space between us. He glanced at my face, must have seen the red mark blooming fast, but didn't comment on it. Instead, he fixed me with that flat, disappointed look. Tyler's education comes first right now. He's got momentum. You can move one doctor visit. Momentum. For a guy who'd been finding himself in the same program for years. I opened my mouth, but he kept going. Family supports each other, Haley. When are you going to get that through your head? The silence stretched again, heavier this time. I looked at Mom's still rigid hand slowly lowering. At Tyler's smirk gone now, but satisfaction clear in his eyes. At Dad, arms folded, waiting for me to fold like always. Something inside me cracked open, quiet but irreversible. All the night scrubbing dishes while Tyler scrolled upstairs, all the rent checks written from tips I earned on swollen feet, all the no's I'd accepted because I thought they were fair, it crystallized in that moment. They weren't asking. They were demanding. And when I said no, this was the response. Dad's voice dropped lower, final. His future actually matters. Yours never did. The words landed clean, no yelling needed. Just fact in his mind. I didn't argue. Didn't cry. I just stared at him for a long beat, memorizing the complete lack of doubt on his face, then turned and walked to the counter where I'd left my bag. My hands shook as I grabbed my keys, the folder with my insurance card and lab orders phone. The mark on my cheek pulsed with every heartbeat. Mom finally spoke, softer now. Haley, wait, he didn't mean it like that. But I was already moving. Past Tyler, who shifted aside just enough to let me through. Past Dad, who didn't reach out or say another word. The front door felt miles away, but I made it, pulled it open, stepped into the blinding afternoon heat. I sat in my car for maybe 30 seconds, engine running, AC blasting cold air against my burning skin. In the rearview mirror, the welt was already darkening, a clear handprint shaping up. I could have gone back inside, demanded an apology, made a scene. Instead, I put the car in drive and headed for the clinic. Appointment was in 40 minutes, plenty of time if traffic cooperated. The waiting room smelled like antiseptic and old magazines. I checked in, took a seat in the corner, kept my head down. A couple people glanced over, but nobody asked. When the nurse called my name, she did a double take at my face, concern flashing quick before she led me back. Dr. Ramirez, same endocrinologist I'd seen for years, was finishing notes when I sat down. She looked up, smiled at first, then frowned. Haley, what happened to your cheek? I hesitated, throat tight. The room felt too bright, too quiet. Family argument. Got out of hand. She set her pen down, leaned forward a little. Do you want to talk about it? Or should we get security involved? No security, I said fast. Just a bad morning. I'm okay. She studied me for a moment, then nodded slow. All right. But if you change your mind, we have resources here. She pulled up my chart, went through the usual questions, how the meds were working, any new symptoms. Drew blood, scheduled the ultrasound in the next room. The tech there gave me the same careful look, but stayed professional. When it was over, doctor said, Ramirez walked me to the door herself. Your levels are stable for now, but we'll keep watching the growth. Come back in 3 months unless something changes. I thanked her, gathering my paperwork. As I turned to leave, she touched my arm lightly. Hey, one more thing. The hospital's rolling out a new paid training cohort for nursing assistants next month. Hospital-sponsored good benefits track, especially helpful for folks managing ongoing health stuff. I know you've mentioned interest before. I could put in a word with the program manager if you want. I blinked the offer, catching me off guard. Seriously, Mr. Vargas runs it. He's fair looks for people with real grit. Send your resume, mention my name. Interviews start next week. I nodded, throat thick again, but for a different reason. I'll do that. Thank you. Driving away from the clinic, windows down despite the heat, the bruise throbbed steady, but the fog in my head started lifting. For the first time in years, something felt possible, something that didn't depend on bending for them. The following week, I showed up for the interview with the bruise still fading. The conference room at the hospital was plain beige walls, long table, a few motivational posters about teamwork. The bruise had yellowed to an ugly shadow by then, mostly hidden under concealer, but Vargas noticed anyway when I sat down. He was mid-40s, built solid, wearing hospital scrubs with a manager badge clipped to the pocket. We talked for 40 minutes. He asked about my work history, why nursing, how I handled stress on busy shifts. I told him straight years, waiting tables through chaos, managing my own health stuff without much support, wanting something stable that actually used my head and heart. When he asked about the mark on my face, I didn't lie. Rough family situation. It's handled. He nodded once. No judgment, just noted it down. At the end, he leaned back. We've got a spot open in the next cohort. Paid training, full benefits after certification, hospital covers most of it. Starts Monday if you're in. I accepted on the spot. No second interview needed. Monday morning, I showed up at 6 sharp, badge-clipped scrubs they'd issued the week before, feeling crisp against my skin. The group was small. 8 of us, mix of ages, all nervous, but ready. Vargas gave the orientation, laid out the schedule, classroom, mornings, floors, afternoons, exams, every few weeks. He paired me with Miguel for clinicals. Miguel was 30-something, quiet, tattoos peeking from his sleeve cuffs. Former Army medic turned nurse, been at the hospital 15 years. First day, he handed me gloves and said, "You watch first 3 times, then you do. Questions only when the patient's stable." Strict, but every correction came with a clear reason. No yelling, no favoritism, just expect you to learn fast and right. The work was hard from day one. Vital signs on real patients, bed baths, catheter care, charting that had to be perfect. My feet ached again, but different this time, purpose behind it. Miguel pushed, but when I got something right, he'd give a short nod that felt better than any tip jar full of singles. Living situation came up quick. I'd been crashing on a coworker's couch the first week, bag in my trunk. Vargas overheard me mentioning it during break. After shift, he pulled me aside. My buddy Ronnie runs maintenance for the hospital, got a spare room above his garage off property. Nothing fancy, but clean, private, no rent if you help with light cleanup sometimes. Interested, I took it the next day. Ronnie was 60s. Compact build, retired mechanic who kept busy fixing hospital equipment on contract. The room was small, cot, mini fridge, shower down the hall, but it locked from inside. First night there, I cooked ramen on a hot plate, 8 sitting on the floor, no one banging on the door asking why dinner wasn't ready. Slept straight through until the alarm, no footsteps overhead, no muffled gaming sounds through the wall. The contrast hit me, gradual but deep. Quiet mornings, drinking coffee alone. Grocery runs where I bought only what I wanted. Evenings studying without sideways comments about wasting time. No sighs when I left dishes in the sink overnight. No one tracking my hours or asking why I wasn't home yet. Harlan came through a few days later. I texted him from my old diner job, explained short version, asked if he could borrow the truck one evening. He showed up without questions, trailer hitched. We drove to the house after dark when no cars were in the driveway. Packed what fit, clothes, laptop, a few books, tools. I'd bought myself, important papers. Left the rest. 20 minutes start to finish. Harlan carried the heavy boxes, kept conversation light about football and new menu specials. When we pulled away, I watched the house shrink in the mirror until the porch light disappeared. Back at Ronnie's, we unloaded into the room. He offered a beer, told a couple stories about his Marine days, then left me to settle. I stacked boxes along the wall, hung a sheet for privacy, plugged in a lamp I'd grabbed from a thrift store. Small, but mine. Messages started piling up that first week. Mom mostly long texts about how I'd overreacted, how Dad was worried sick, how Tyler needed his sister right now. A couple from Tyler asking where his charger was, like nothing happened. I read none past the preview. Blocked the numbers one by one, deleted threads without opening. The silence on my phone felt cleaner than any apology they might have offered. At the hospital, people treated me different, not out of pity, just straight. Miguel corrected my technique on IV starts until I nailed it, then said good and moved on. Other trainees shared notes, covered breaks without keeping score. Vargas checked in once a week, asked how the material was landing, if I needed schedule adjustments around follow-ups. Fair? No hidden agenda. I started breathing easier. Mornings I'd wake before the alarm stretch without rushing. Evenings I'd review flashcards on the cot window cracked to let in night air thick with Florida jasmine. Lost a few pounds from all the walking on floors, gained strength lifting patience. The thyroid stuff stayed, managed meds on time, no one questioning the cost. For the first time, the future didn't feel like something I had to beg for. It was building shift by shift in a place that saw me as capable instead of convenient. 2 months into the program, my first paycheck finally arrived. It came in a plain envelope, my name typed on the front, hospital logo in the corner. $812 after taxes and deductions. Not life-changing, but proof I was earning on my own terms. I folded the check carefully, slipped it into my wallet, and decided it was time to stop using the old joint account I'd shared with Mom since high school. Next day off, I walked into a branch downtown, filled out the new account forms, handed over ID and the pay stub. The teller was friendly, chatted about the weather while typing. Then her smile faded. She excused herself, came back with a manager who asked me to sit in a side office. We ran the standard check, he said, voice low. There are some flags on your credit file, negative marks, high balances. We can't open anything today. You'll want to pull your full report and dispute if needed. I thanked him, walked out numb. Negative marks. I'd never owned a credit card, never taken a loan. My only debt was a small medical bill I'd paid off last year. Back at Ronnie's, I used his ancient desktop to request free reports from all 3 bureaus. They arrived by mail a week later, thick packets I spread across the cot like evidence. The numbers stared back, cold. $42,000 total spread across 5 cards and 2 personal loans, all opened in my name, starting 7 years earlier. Oldest one dated to when I was 20, right around the time I started full-time shifts. I went line by line. Gaming console bundles shipped to our home address. High-end sneakers in Tyler's size. Tools and auto parts billed to Dad's shop suppliers. Tuition payments to the community college, amounts matching what I'd overheard them discussing. Monthly minimums paid just enough to keep accounts open, interest piling up slow and steady. Every purchase traced back to them. My name on the application's forged signatures I recognized as Mom's careful cursive. They'd built a secret credit line on my future while telling me we couldn't afford basics. I sat there until the room grew dark, reports crumpled in my fists. Anger mixed with something sicker, betrayal that ran deeper than the slap. This wasn't a moment of lost control. This was years of planning. A coworker mentioned legal aid clinics downtown, free help for exactly this kind of mess. I made an appointment, showed up with the stack printed and highlighted. Elena Carter met me in a small office stacked with files. Late 40s, sharp eyes, voice calm but direct. She spread the reports on her desk, scanned quick, then looked up. Classic family identity theft. More common than people admit, harder to prosecute because victims hesitate. But the paper trail here is solid. She walked me through it step by step. File police report, first establishes crime triggers, fraud alerts on my credit. Dispute every account with the bureaus, provide ID theft affidavit, police report copy. Freeze credit to stop new damage. Then decide civil suit for damages. Or push criminal charges. Criminal means your parents could face jail. She said no, sugarcoating. Probation at minimum, restitution ordered. You ready for that? I stared at the highlighted lines. Tyler's gaming rig, Dad's shop equipment. They had years to stop, I answered. They chose not to. Still, I asked for time. Went back to Ronnie's, paced the small room, replayed every "we can't afford it" conversation. The education account. The convenient car trouble that cost me a certification chance. It all connected now, deliberate and long-term. 3 nights I barely slept. Part of me whispered they were still my parents. Flawed, sure, but blood. The other part saw the math, decades of my life paying for their choices. I thought about the slap, the cold words, the smirk. No remorse, no pause. I called Elena back. File the report. All of it. She nodded when I signed the forms. Good. This won't be fast, but it's the right move. The investigation started. Slow detective interviews, me handing over everything I had. Subpoenas went out for bank records, shop invoices, college payment logs. Detectives pulled card statements, matched shipping addresses, signatures. Mom's email linked to several account logins. Dad's business accounts showed deposits from customers vanishing into personal expenses. Big repair jobs paid upfront materials. Never ordered jobs left half done. One follow-up interview, the detective slid a photo across the table. Security cam, still from Dad's shop the night my car wouldn't start years ago. Dad under the hood, flashlight and hand cables disconnected, clear as day. We found this in old files. Matches the date you mentioned missing that exam. Proof. Not coincidence. Not bad luck. Intentional. Word spread quiet in local circles, shop customers canceling suppliers, calling in debts. Dad's business dried up fast. Nobody wants a mechanic under fraud investigation. Mom tried reaching out once through a new number voicemail about needing to talk, how I was tearing the family apart. I deleted it, unheard. Tyler showed up at the hospital parking lot one afternoon, driving his truck, looking for confrontation. Security escorted him off before he got inside. Ronnie spotted him from the garage window later that week, tire iron in hand just in case. Tyler peeled out without trying again. The case built steady. Tax evasion added when IRS got involved, underreported income, personal trips written off as business. Total hole they'd dug neared $100,000 across victims, but mine was the anchor. 8 months of waiting later, the day of the trial finally came. The courthouse in downtown Orlando was packed that morning, air thick with tension and the smell of polished wood. I sat in the gallery behind the prosecutor, folder of documents on my lap, heart steady but loud in my ears. Elena had prepped me for weeks what to expect, how to stay calm if they tried twisting things. Dad was first to enter, cuffed at the wrists, orange jumpsuit hanging loose on his frame. He'd lost weight, face drawn, but his eyes scanned the room until they landed on me. No wave, no expression, just a long stare before he sat. Mom followed, dressed, plain hair pulled back tight. She glanced my way once, eyes red-rimmed, then looked down fast. Tyler slouched in beside her, hoodie up, scrolling his phone until the bailiff snapped at him to stop. The charges read out, long, multiple counts of identity theft, wire fraud, tax evasion. Prosecutor laid it all bare: bank records, forged applications, customer complaints about unfinished jobs at the shop, IRS audits showing years of hidden income. My victim impact packet was thick: credit reports, dispute letters, the photo of Dad tampering with my car cables. Defense tried painting it as desperate times, bad choices under pressure, me as the angry daughter exaggerating for revenge. They brought up family hardship, how prison would destroy what was left. Mom took the stand, voice shaking, talking about stress and mistakes, how they never meant to hurt anyone, especially me. She avoided my eyes the whole time. Dad's turn was shorter. He admitted parts, said he got in over his head keeping the business afloat. Used my info because it was easy, thought he'd pay it back someday. No apology direct to me, just regret for how things turned out. Tyler didn't testify, just sat fidgeting. The judge wasn't moved. Evidence too stacked, pattern too clear. Sentence came down firm. Dad got 3 years state prison, no early parole for the fraud scale. Mom drew 3 years probation, hefty fines, and full restitution order, every dollar run up in my name, plus penalties. Assets liquidated to cover it, starting with the house. They led Dad out first. He paused at the rail, looked back once. "This destroy everything," he muttered, voice low but carrying. I met his gaze even. "No. You did. I just stopped covering for it." Foreclosure hit fast after that. The split level went to auction 6 months later, sign on the lawn, strangers walking through rooms I'd grown up in. Mom moved to a small apartment, worked odd jobs to meet probation check-ins. Word was she sold most furniture to pay legal fees. Tyler's truck got repossessed when the payments tied to one of the fraudulent accounts stopped. No more community college? He dropped out mid-semester, picked up shifts stocking shelves at a convenience store off the highway. Last I heard, through a mutual acquaintance, he was crashing on Ashley's couch, her parents not thrilled, but tolerating it. My side moved forward, steady. The ADN-RN bridge wrapped up with hospital sponsorship covering the last stretch, extra clinical hours, night classes I powered through on coffee and determination. Exam day came, results posted online. 2 weeks later passed, registered nurse license in hand. I signed a lease on a studio downtown, tiny but high windows, my name alone on the paperwork. First month's rent from my own checks, no cosigner needed. Furniture came slow, thrift finds a real bed frame, plants on the sill that actually stayed alive. Credit cleanup took longer, endless calls, certified mail freezes and disputes. But one by one accounts closed as fraudulent balances zeroed, score climbing back to usable. First new card approved in my name only felt like a quiet victory. They tried reaching out a few times over the years. A letter from Mom, once handwritten, full of regret, that never quite said sorry for the right things. Emails from Tyler asking for help with a bill, like old habits. Even a call from Dad after his release, voice rough, wanting to clear the air. I let them go to voicemail, deleted without listening. Blocked new numbers as they came. Some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt. 3 years on, I'm pulling 12-hour shifts in the ER, some weeks steady pay, benefits covering my thyroid follow-ups without stress. Colleagues who know my story only from bits I share respect the boundaries, celebrate the wins. Ronnie still checks in. Harlan sends texts about diner specials. Miguel grabbed beers after my pinning ceremony, grunted. "Not bad," with a rare grin. I drive a used hatchback, now paid off, reliable, no strings. Evenings I cook what I want, watch whatever, sleep deep in a space that's truly mine. Looking back, that day in court wasn't revenge. It was consequence finally catching up. And walking away that morning after the slap wasn't running, it was choosing myself. Walking away from toxic family isn't betrayal, it's survival. Some doors need to stay closed forever.